All right, guys, what's going on? We have the first week in the books for the League of Superheroes scoreboard. Um, Now, we had a very interesting week. This week we had some pretty high scores. This is our first week under the new rules for the point 0.5 or a half point per reception. So why don't we get right into it? I'll make this kind of quick and to the point. First matchup we're going to look at is Black Panther George versus Bill. And even though Tyreek Hill basically scored, it looks like close to half of Bill's points, George came out in the end. It was more of just a well balanced attack from George, from Kirk Cousins. David Johnson looked pretty good coming back from that injury. It's going to be kind of tough for him, though. You know, with Sam Bradford as quarterback, it's gonna be a tough situation for him. He looked absolutely horrendous, but David Johnson looked pretty good and healthy and quick, which is good to see. Stephon Diggs had a nice catch from Kirk Cousins, so he has that duo right there of Kirk Cousins and Stephon Diggs. What else happened? And Bill's team, I like a lot of his players. A lot of his players I was targeting um, during the draft. He just got completely screwed over from the Saints defense, -9. I had the Saints defense in other leagues, and they just completely screwed me over. It looks like, actually, no, he still would have lost by 2 points, but he would have been better off just not starting a defense, obviously. And I'm assuming almost any other defense he could have played this week that would have gave him just 2 points. It would have put him over the top. So unfortunately for him, he got kind of screwed over by his defense. And Alex Collins and Fournette. Fournette getting hurt in the middle of the game really killed him. So he should be back and ready to go for next week. He has a very good team, in my opinion. Um, what else we got here? We got one of the upsets of the week, according to some. We have the Burlington Boys of JD beating Mr. $5,000 League Yates over here. And it looks like if obviously if Yates started Mahomes, he would have won. Let's see if anything else happened here. Oh, Doug Baldwin completely screwed over Yates. Yates had a good week. Um, it's just Baldwin kind of screwed him over. The Rams defense had a great week as well. Sanders, one of my freaking targets in the draft, just got completely sniped. Bill and Yates just completely just took a lot of my targets this year in the draft. Whatever. We have JD, who has Rob Gronkowski, who I love this year. He's going to be awesome. The Patriots need to throw to somebody, and it's going to be Gronk. They usually try to wait for the playoffs to use him, but this year they had to use him to actually win regular season games this year because their wide receivers are so depleted. Um, we have JD's two running backs only gave him 4.8 points and still somehow scored over 110 points. That's how good his wide receivers and tight ends were. Julio had a solid week with 23 points. Rodgers and Wilson, and I could actually use a quarterback right now, so I might be putting some trade offers. So good week by JD, and upsetting Yates' team because according to Fawad's rankings, we had JD as the bottom team after the draft. So good for JD. We have a rivalry matchup here. We have SN versus Mo. This is a very deep-rooted rivalry right here. SN came up on top. We had a great performance out of James Conner, who is screwing me over heavily right now because I was thinking about taking him in the 13th, 14th round, and then SN took him in the beginning of the 13th round over me, and I just completely missed as a Le'Veon Bell owner. That was my fault. I didn't think anyone else was going to take him because I had Bell, and he had the foresight to take him. That was a really good pick, and it really helped him out this week. Obviously, he's just loaded with running backs. He has Peterson, Thompson on his bench. Um, and he has just loaded with running backs. And Olsen kind of screwed him over a little bit, but he could probably use a little bit of tight end help. Uh, who needs more tight end help over here is Mo, who lost Delaney Walker for, I believe, the season. And he just got nothing out of Big Ben. I'm surprised Big Ben even scored 9 points. That's how awful he was during this game. Both Freemans only got him combined, let's do some simple math, 13 points. Uh, Not great. Hogan kind of screwed him over as well. And Vikings defense, that was really it. There's no one really who could have played other than Jared Cook, who would have even made this a little closer. So SN had a really good week, and he's looking really deep as well. He has a really good running back depth, and he has a lot of trade ammo if he chooses to do that. Even though he'll probably be using one of these running backs to replace LaShawn McCoy, because that Bills offense is absolutely god awful, to put it lightly. Next matchup, we had Fawad and Hassan, and it looks like, well, obviously Fawad won. He had a very well-rounded week. I believe he was the second highest scorer this week, maybe third. I forget. I'll look at it after this. Just completely balanced all across the board. This is like what a perfect what my perfect fantasy team would look like. Just 20 points, 10 points, 15 points, just from almost everybody. Um, Really good start having George Kittle, who was going to be one of my free agent targets because I didn't have enough room for another tight end. He actually drafted him, and he looked like he's one of the top targets on the 49ers, especially after Goodwin got hurt. That is going to be a very good pickup for him, or very good draft pick for him. Gurley did what he did. Evans coming back from a down year last year and putting up big numbers against the Saints defense. Fitzmagic is back and better than ever, apparently. What else do we got here? We got Hassan, who had a decent week. I mean, he had some very bad performances out of Kelsey, his two tight ends right here. But other than that, I mean, he had like a good performance out of Goff, Ajayi, Antonio Brown, Green. I like his team. And it just, normal production from his two tight ends who would have had him into probably the 115 area. And that's good enough to win, 60 or probably 70% of your matchups. So you get to 115. This year, the scoring is a little higher because we have a half point per receptions. That's why the scores all seem a little higher. So 100 points now in this league now is sometimes not good enough to win, as I saw, definitely. So let's see if there's anything that Hassan could have possibly done. I mean, he could have started like Eckler, but no one would have thought to do that, obviously. So not really much he could have done there. So good win by our faithful commissioner over here. We had Gunn and AK going up against right here. Let's just see who the score. Yeah, so Khalid was definitely the highest scoring team by far, followed by Fawad, then SN, and AK. So crazy performance by Khalid. We'll get into that. AK had basically two just complete studs in Breeze and Kamara. It's almost impossible how they did not win this game. We had Devontae Adams had a good game. Cooks did all right. Graham Funches. So basically, he had really, what's this? Let's round this up to 40. Yeah, basically 70 points from two players. That's usually good enough, to get you to win almost any matchup. He even got -3 from the Chargers defense, and he still put up the W here. Gunn had a good week. I mean, he scored 109 points and lost. He had a great Crowell. Looked pretty good. I think he only got like 10 carries. Yeah, he only got 10 carries. He put up 22 points, so that could increase. Hunt kind of screwed him over. We'll see how that develops. I don't know. Maybe some Spencer Ware buzz maybe going around there. Not much going else. I mean, Newton did okay. Not much he could have done on the bench either. So, I mean, AK just had two great performances, and that was just enough. We have, and the last matchup of the week was me and Khalil. Uh, I just, completely screwed over by the Le'Veon Bell situation. I mean, anyone else I could have put in. I mean, it would have been enough this week, obviously, because his team just went completely off. Um, every single player played well, except for like Njoku. So almost unbeatable this week. He has a really good, well balanced team here. Even Dion Lewis had 19 points. I was not expecting Dion Lewis to do that. Um, Saquon looked, every bit of why he was picked that high. Joe Mixon, you know, some Joe Mixon hype now. I mean, he looked pretty good. I mean, I was thinking about him, but I didn't think he was gonna be this good. We'll see how that develops. But um, it's funny because no one on his bench played, so everyone that played for him basically put up stud numbers. And for me, I had Michael Thomas put up crazy numbers. My wide receivers and tight ends did pretty well. Even Lamar Miller, he played really well in that game. He got his freaking touchdown vultured by Alfred Blue. If that they kept Miller into that game at the 1 yard line. I mean, that's another 6 points. He had a very good week, so I'm very happy with Lamar Miller. Jimmy G, it was tough for me. I didn't know whether to start him or pick up someone else. I just went with him because he's a better player. He'll have better performances. This was a tough game, first game of the year, going into Minnesota against that defense, and Goodwin getting hurt that basically in the first couple plays. So nothing else I could have really done except for Kenny Stills, but I was not going to start him over any of these wide receivers. Um, so yeah, I mean, my whole team just revolves around if Le'Veon Bell came back, and considering the circumstances, I still scored 114 points without my top, basically the top player in fantasy last year. So I guess that's pretty good for the rest of my team. We just got to get Le'Veon Bell back. I should be okay. That's it for the weekly recap for that. Let's just take a quick look at the standings. I mean, it's pretty, we know who won and lost. So highest scoring teams we kind of went over already. And let's just take a quick look at the matchups for next week. I believe we're still going with the theme of in-division matchups right now. Some of them, obviously, there's only 3 per division, so one team's not going to play in division. But we have me and Yates. That's an in-division matchup right there. I know that for a fact. SN and Billy, Gunn and Kaleem. That is not an in-division matchup. AK and Fawad, Hassan and Mo. That's another rivalry. I mean, Mo has a lot of rivals, so almost any matchup he plays, he has a rivalry right there. And we have JD and George. So other than that, that's it for the weekly recap. It's good to be back doing this. And we'll see you guys in week 2